Thank you for helping us track the spread of Fukushima radiation across the Pacific. Once you've reached your fundraising goal, we'll send you one of these kits. Inside the kit, the most important thing is the Cubetainer, or QB for short. That's the 5-gallon sample container you'll be using. We'll also have for you a return mailing label, and we'll show you how to close this box with the 2 zip ties and the instruction sheet that goes with it. Now inside each of these containers, you might hear something rattling around. That's a small temperature probe made by Onset called a tidbit, and that gives us the exact temperature of the sample when you collect it. You don't have to do anything. Just leave it in there. It won't fall out, and just collect your sample in that container. Now, if you're going from a pier or a dock, you might need a bucket and a rope. Sometimes we use a funnel to help us fill these up. If you're going from the beach, you can just wade in, your swimsuit, get a little wet, and fill this up by pushing it under the water and letting it fill almost to the top. We leave a little airspace each time we fill these. So we're at a dock taking a sample. This is the fun part. It's as simple as taking a rope, throwing a bucket over your favorite dock or pier, and putting that water in the Cubetainer. Now we're using a funnel. If you have a funnel, that's great. If you don't, you can just fill and spill. It doesn't really matter. This is just fresh seawater. We like to fill up these containers. It'll take several times to fill it, but so there's still a little airspace in the top. So we'll leave that airspace. That allows us to push the top down after it's closed. Remember, don't lose the top. Screw it on, hand tight, doesn't have to be too hard. And we're going to note the time, the place, and the date that you took this sample. If you're collecting from your favorite beach, all we do is take that the Cubetainer into the water with you, submerge it until it fills up with water. Leave a little airspace or you pour out some later. We just ask you, try not to get any sediment or seaweed inside of it, so go out deep enough so you get a clean sample. You take the top that it came with, screw it on hand tight. It goes back in the box that we shipped it in, and on your sheet, the instruction sheet, give us the date and the time and the location where you collected it. It's also a good time to take a picture of your favorite beach or your friend who's collected it for you. The other thing I want to point out is that these samples have trace amounts of radioactivity in them, but also natural isotopes that are around us. So if I measure with my Geiger counter how radioactive is the sample, it's actually no more radioactive than standing here and collecting it. So we are not concerned about shipping these. We also know that this is actually working because we're exposed to things. Here's a plate with a uranium glaze on it that sends us up to hundreds of counts per minute, where a natural background is typically about 10 or 20 in this area. So there's variations in radioactivity, but nothing that we're concerned about in the samples that you'll be handling. So all you do at this point is close the top. We send along a tie wraps that go through the holes on each end and slap on the mailing label for UPS. Bring it to a UPS office, a pack and save, or if you have to, you can call up UPS and they'll pick it up at your home. That's all there is to it. After we collect each sample back in the lab, we pass it through a special resin that isolates the cesium isotopes from the rest of the naturally occurring radionuclides in your sample. They're dried, they're put in a little plastic vial like this. We bring them down here to our counting lab. Now we use a very specialized piece of equipment. It costs over $75,000 called a high purity germanium detector. I'm going to open one of these up. It's actually a very heavy instrument. There's lead and copper here to shield it from some of the background radiation that actually is higher in activity than what's in our sample. So we put our sample in the chamber, we close it back up, and it remains there for over 24 hours to detect the amount of radioactivity measured in units of becquerels, or how many decays per second are coming from that sample. Once we have those data, we put them on our website for everybody to share and track the Fukushima radionuclides crossing the Pacific.
To learn more about Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution, visit us on the web at www.whoi.edu.